How did I know what was channeling, what was just my imagination, and what was ego? Hello again, everybody. My name is Alexa Shepard, and today's episode is going to be a slight departure from those in the past because I'm not going to start with the drumming. I'm going to talk to you with my eyes open. I've had some questions about when I first started channeling. How did I know what was channeling, what was just my imagination, and what was ego, and how to separate those from each other? I will readily admit that's a tough one at first because it was just such a departure from how I had ever perceived myself spiritually. When the channeling started, it was spontaneous. It just started happening. And it was dramatic because what was coming through my mouth was opposed to the thoughts that were sometimes in my head. When I was composing something in my head as ego, and then something different would come out of my mouth, that's obvious and dramatic. That's an energy that's not me. When I say not me, that's not altogether true, because when I first started channeling, the energy that was coming through was my higher self. I didn't know that at first. The voice sounded very familiar, and the reason for that is because I'd been listening to my higher self all of my life, off and on. Oh, okay. My left ear started ringing very dramatically, very loud. That is a download. That is energy coming from source into my body, and I'm made aware of it by a very distinct and loud ringing in the ear. Sometimes it's the left, sometimes it's the right. It's not predictable. That really doesn't have anything to do with the channeling per se, other than when I am in a relaxed, high vibrational mode, even though I'm not channeling. Like right now, I'm not channeling. That's one of the reasons the words are not coming to me as easily and as fluid, and they're not flowing as well, because I'm composing this. So since I'm composing, that means that's ego talking. If I close my eyes and I go into trance state, then my higher self will come through if I allow it. And the way that I know that happens, I've mentioned this in previous episodes, that I get a warm, fuzzy feeling in my chest and in my solar plexus. My whole torso just lights up. That is my physical sensation to know when I'm channeling. Whenever ego tries to step in, especially at the beginning, ego was trying to come in and trying to compose. And when that happens, that warm feeling in my chest would instantly go away, just like that, gone. And then I'd go, oh, okay, so whatever's going on in my head right now is ego because the warmth went away. I have a channeling friend that we practice together once a week, and I asked her, what is your sensation when you know that you're in channeling mode? And for her, it's a slight pressure in her temple. All channels, or at least all channels that I'm aware of, have a different type of physical body sensation. And these physical body sensations, you cannot create it without changing your vibration using whatever techniques you use. For me, it's chanting and toning and singing and drumming, and those things raise my vibration quickly, and I immediately get that warm, fuzzy feeling. But for other people, they have other ways of warming up, so to speak, of getting into the trance state, getting into the channeling state. When I'm not channeling, I'm trying to compose. And when ego composes, ego has to compose. There's always a hesitation for ego. Ego always has to stop, think, compose, and then speak. Whenever I'm channeling, none of that happens. The words just flow. The words just come through. I have no idea what words are going to come through next. Sometimes when I'm channeling, the words will speed up really quickly. That happens because Source doesn't have to think. Source doesn't have to compose. Source energy just is. There's no composition. It just flows. Sometimes I have to be describing the feelings that I'm getting, or the words, or the images, or whatever is flowing through at the moment. But if I catch myself thinking and composing off to the side, that's always, for me, ego's always over here. Source is always back here. Different people have different directions that the energies come from. But for me, It always flows through third eye, crown chakra, down through my throat, through my speaking mechanism. See, I had to close my eyes there for a minute because in describing the channeling state, I went there because I can get into that state very quickly. For me, there has to be a physical sensation that I can't fake. The ego cannot create that physical sensation artificially. It has to be from high vibration. It has to be from me. It was obvious when I started getting that warm, fuzzy feeling what that was, but I didn't make the connection at the beginning that that's how I know I'm channeling. I hope that answers some of your questions. I know I rambled a bit, and that's what happens when I'm not channeling. Sometimes it doesn't flow smoothly when I'm having to compose. So I hope that helps.